Hey everybody, for those of you who listened to our last interview with Olivia Ramos, you may recall the story I shared about a young professional athlete and investor based in Europe. Today, Jan Farrell has agreed to join us for the 90x9 episode. Jan is not only a professional speed skier who happens to be fluent in 4 languages, he is also an advisor, board member, and investor to numerous startups, an alumni, you have a long list, an alumni of and adjunct professor at IE Business School, a brand ambassador for large names such as LEKI, and MÁSMÓVIL, and the CEO of Liberalia Spain. Did I get everything?
Yes, I think so. Yes, I'm setting up an investor club as well, but it doesn't have a name, so we can't really
talk about it just yet.
Put it on a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, we could talk about it in today's interview if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so now that we know you are the real life Tony Stark, could you share a bit about your origin story? Like, how did you get started? Speed skiing, startups, investing. Where did it all begin?
I mean, I think I basically just exploited a talent that I had since I was very small. I was good at disassembling things and fixing things. So ever since I could remember, I just dismantle everything that I had, whether it was a pen or some sort of small game console, an alarm clock, and things like that. And I'd actually be able to put it together again, and it would actually work afterwards most of the time.
Okay.
So I sort of started working at school and things, sort of fixing my friends' phones, and quickly saw that was a good business opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted to ski race professionally, but skiing is very expensive.
Okay.
So I wanted to go to university and be a physicist, an experimental physicist, sort of theoretical physicist, more like. And but sort of I also wanted to be a ski racer. Okay. So I thought, I could try to make some money and do some. Mm-hmm. And that's basically where I am still, 18 years later.
Yeah.
Still trying to do some business, trying to pay for skiing.
Yeah.
And a few other things have sort of come along with that.
Okay, so how did you even discover speed skiing? Because that's like a very niche sport.
Well, I mean, it is definitely niche, and it's so far-fetched that even that it was kind of my natural way of skiing, didn't get involved with it in any way until I'd been racing in other disciplines for the best part of 10 years.
Yeah.
So I raced ski alpine, I raced ski cross, but what I really liked was just going straight in a line really, really fast. Yeah. Like a lot of people that ski, a lot of children, you see them on the slopes, and when you turn your head around and they're zooming down. It's yeah. Really fun. So for me, speed skiing is a really natural way of skiing. Okay. It's also the first competitive winter sport ever, from the American gold miners in the 19th century. They were racing this of the 1850s, and there's some incredible, difficult to get into. Although I'm working on that from inside the International Ski Federation, trying to lower the barrier of entry and make it more accessible to more people.
Okay, but isn't it like a super dangerous sport? Or not really, just looks like that when we see the videos.
Yes, I mean, but it's like everything in life, it's about minimizing risk.
Yeah.
Like investing, it's you want to take as little risk as possible. So we do a lot to minimize risk. I ski above 200 kilometers per hour. My top speed is 231, which is 154 miles per hour.
Yeah.
But I crashed at 216 kilometers per hour, which is something like 134, I think, miles per hour. And nothing happened to me. So I had the necessary protection. I fell in the right way. The safety nets were there. So we all kind of went according to plan. Like when you see somebody who races a motorbike slide on on a circuit and on a track, and yeah, you get burnt and bruised and it hurts, but it's not necessarily fatal, you know.
Yeah. Did you break any bones when you did that? Like, what's the story
I
behind
raced
that
the
crash?
next day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Your parents were like freaking out, or?
My wife was in
Yeah.
the crowd watching, and she freaked out, but she freaked out in a worrying way. She was angry, not worried, but she was angry at me.
Yeah.
And I was still on the ground. I think I was probably still sliding when I could see her sort of coming running up to me, like, "What did you do?" I was like,
Oh my gosh.
"Sorry." By the way, I'm okay.
That's very funny.
So yeah. Crashes are not that frequent. We get maybe 1 or 2 big ones a year, and normally people are okay. You can check a few of them on my YouTube channel. There's some very interesting ones.
Yeah, I will. Let me make a note right here so I know to add those into the show notes. Add link to YouTube crashes here.
I think it's why people watch our sport, you know, just in case we crash.
No. I know I've watched the videos and I'm like, holy crap, this person's fearless.
No, definitely not. We are fearful, and we have fears. And at the start of a race where we're going to go fast, we're all scared. It's around how you manage that and what you do. And after my crash, I'm more scared than before. But yeah, you have to overcome your fears, and yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's intense. So, your first company. How did you come up with that idea?
Well, Liberalia is kind of what I started at school, fixing phones for friends. You know?
Yeah.
We started it with a friend, fixing phones. He was unlocking phones so that people could change operator freely, and we made a joint venture together. That didn't quite work out, so I set up my own company sort of after a few months. And that company still exists. It's called Liberalia. Did change name in 2006, but since then it's been called Liberalia, and it has 50 employees, and I'm the CEO. It's an amazing place with inspiring people and growing every year. So I'm happy. It's a good place to work.
It's working out well. That's pretty cool. So the classic like start in your dorm room type story, origin story.
Yeah, I mean, I was fixing phones at home for friends, and when we opened the company, then we rented some office space in the center of Madrid, and I worked Monday till Sunday, 12 hours a day, and partied, and yeah, so it was wild times. I'm not sure if I'd have the energy to do that now, but I still do work Monday to Sunday, but try to keep the hours down from 12 to maybe 8 or 9 or 10.
You have so much energy. So how old were you when Liberalia moved from being you to renting office space?
18.
Wow. And then you started speed skiing at a professional level a few years later?
Yeah, I mean, I was racing Alpine just at a local level in Spain, learning to race from basically that age. And combining it with work, although work took over most of my life, so I wasn't able to dedicate sufficient time to ski racing. I started to take ski across through a very complicated course. It's Olympic. It's like motocross or BMX, but on snow.
Oh my gosh!
Great fun. But I broke my knee in 2008, realized I wasn't going to make the Olympic Games, and yeah, I carried on training and recovering from that. But in 2011, Gran Valira in Andorra organized the speed ski race, which was relatively close by, and so I started to inquire what I had to do to get a license, and and signed up to the race, equipment, etc., etc. And I did it, and it was love at first sight. And it's a sport which is made for me, and I fell in love instantly.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. This is why everyone calls you Tony Stark when you're not listening. So, what made you decide to transition to investing in startups?
To make money. So that some people sometimes we forget, the reason for investing, but investing means to make money.
Yeah.
So that has to be the first reason, and sometimes you have to remind yourself about that. But definitely there's an additional reason, which is to be at the cutting edge of technology. Yeah. I'm very much motivated by hardware, innovation, where the world is leading, devices that make your life easier, and improving the world along the way. So I've specialized myself in hardware and mainly focused on sort of intelligent hardware opportunities.
Okay.
So it's kind of my area of expertise, and also the manufacturing side of things in China. I've half sort of lived there for a year, and on and off, and I'm a bit familiar with the process, so I know what obstacles and things happen when you try to manufacture something.
When did you live in China?
There, I sort of came and went every month for a few days, for a week or two.
And what made you decide China, and where in China?
Shenzhen, the factory of the world. It's where most of the things that you mentioned beforehand, your iPad, your computer, your watch, and your iPhone, they're all manufactured in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
So it's the place to be for any. But we still haven't had suppliers there. I've been traveling there since 2003.
Okay.
To supply Liberalia and to manufacture things for several different business venues, from sort of mobile phone covers to beach volleyballs to stickers for MÁSMÓVIL and all sorts of things I've manufactured in China, and it's great fun.
Yeah. Okay. And
a wild place.
Yeah. Do you speak one of the Chinese dialects?
No, I did start to learn Mandarin, but my Mandarin teacher disappeared in Madrid, and we left it there. It was difficult. You do need to invest a lot of time into learn Mandarin, a lot.
Yeah.
So my utmost respect to foreigners that do learn the language, because it's pretty easier to pilot a fighter jet or something like that.
Yeah, it's easier to go to space than to learn that language.
Yes.
Okay, so with the first startup that you invested in, how did you pick it? What did you take in, like, what considerations did you take into account when you were making the decision? Like, could you just walk us through that experience?
Yes. So my first real investment in what could be called a startup, and not sort of some friends venture many years ago or something like that, sort of real formal investment in a startup as a professional investor, because it's more than $50,000, etc., is Carve, which is the digital ski instructor.
Okay.
So these are insoles which go inside your ski boot. You put them inside, and they teach you how to ski in real time through feedback to your mobile phone. So intelligent hardware, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and all that sexy talk. It's there, and the team is inspiring.
Yeah.
And how did I get there? I had been exploring and looking for opportunities already for 2 years beforehand.
Okay.
So it's basically why I started to. The main reason I started to work at the IE Business School was to look and familiarize myself with the startup sort of ecosystem and see what opportunities there were.
Yeah.
And saying no, learning to say no to a lot of opportunities that came my way.
Yeah.
And Carve came to me from several different directions, from my coach, from my PR agency, from a friend of mine who had skied with them, and in the end, so we connected and got talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave them advice, which they listened to, and they were,
that's huge.
They were very interesting, and yeah, so I started to do my personal due diligence on them, and learned a lot through the process. I think that first one has really changed how my approach to any other startup which I analyze. It really matured my ideas and taught me how to detect really what's important in a startup and what isn't.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you included in there, they took your advice and they implemented it. Because I've had mentors who, after like a year or two of keeping in touch, they were like, if you find a startup that you think is worth investing in, let me know. But that's not how the conversation started. It was, they tested me for a year or two, like, how does she implement my advice before they made that jump? And I think that's something that not enough people take into consideration when making their choices. Usually they're like, oh, let me hear the deck, let me see the pitch, let me interrogate you for an hour and then make a decision. And it's, well, why don't you take a little bit of time to see like how they react with you? Because it really is like when you invest in a startup, it's like a marriage, except I think it's a little bit more stressful. Because you don't have that like fun time. It's more of like you have like high stress, high stakes. Well, you're all about mitigating risks, so I mean that does help. How do you have a way that when you're looking at investing in a startup, you take into consideration these are the risk factors and this is how I'm going to mitigate them?
Not formally, no. I definitely think about risk, and I'm always trying to find where something can go wrong. Okay. It's kind of an instinct. So I don't have an ABCD of risks to avoid. No, I think it's a very natural thing that you just sort of talk to the team and see, where is this going to go wrong? How are they going to lose my money? Yeah. And when they just answer positively and convincingly to each one of your doubts or questions, that's when you start to get interested in actually investing.
Yeah. With this specific company, did they have a financial model that they showed to you and then they actually stuck to it, or they had like, this is what we're expecting, this is our standard deviation, and kind of followed that sort of trajectory?
Yes, they had financial projections. I think in the first few years of a startup, the financials are wild and it's difficult to predict. And I don't give it that much importance. Okay. Other things are more important for me. As in, I might as well say what's important for me in a startup to invest now. So, first, obviously, is the idea. So, in my case, normally it's a product. And is it something which people need? Does it really solve something? And therefore, will it be easy to sell? I really very much avoid things which needs to be pushed into somebody's needs. Something which creates a category I'm not a very big fan of, because you really need to convince people that they need it. Yeah, which is hard work and very very money intensive. Yeah. So I'm really looking for something which solves evidently a problem or evidently is useful. Okay. And will convince anyone that, oh, that's a good idea. You know, I'd like one of those. Oh, it's too expensive, whatever. Okay, that's fine, but is it really useful? Yeah. And the next thing is the people, the founders. That's just so important. And yeah, I agree with you. The advice component is important. But I do have to say something in defense for startups that don't listen to advice, although how you don't listen to advice is important, is that startups get fired advice at them constantly from everyone. So especially if you're raising capital, you'll always be listening to advice from experts in their fields, and yes, some or most of the advice is pretty excellent, but you can't follow everything. And yes, so Carve is very quick to say no. Like, Jan, very good idea, but we don't have the bandwidth to do it, or that's not a good idea, or so that they surprise me daily with that. Also by using advice positively, but also by quickly saying no, like
being selective about which advice.
We're not going to do that. Like, okay.
I think that, like, if someone's giving you consistently bad advice, would you really want them to be an investor?
Yes, because investors' job isn't to give advice, in my opinion. An investor's job is to give you the money. Really simplifying things, no? So an investor should open doors, give contacts, but really, if you need an advisor, employ someone. I think a team should be complete without external needs, and I'm wary when somebody's really looking for a strategic investor. Investors are normally, people who have professional investors. They have a lot of different ventures and a lot of different areas of investment. Very few people only invest in venture capital. Mostly, you have a varied portfolio. And you want teams which can get on and do things by themselves, not teams that need things. So
constantly. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's a generalization. Certainly, if you have ideas, you should share them. But there is a very big component of trusting, of building a strong team.
And I guess that sort of worldview comes with having invested in quite a few startups at this point, right? Because some investors are like constantly pinging the startup, but it's probably their first, second, or third startup that they invested in. By like their fourth or fifth, they're like, I'm not going to blow up your phone.
Well, you find situations that you have to help or can help, but that shouldn't be the pillar of the investor-startup relationship. I invested recently in Cocoon. They're intelligent earphones which may help you sleep. And that's sort of the first investment which I really made thinking they don't need me for anything. They are complete and they have an excellent team. Okay, they're looking for a data scientist. I'm not a data scientist, so if I was, I might try to help them. But after sort of a couple of months, we quickly realized that I could help them on PR and marketing. From my experiences as an athlete and responsible for media marketing for my sport, for speed skiing, and I'm giving them pretty interesting. They're giving me a pretty interesting time and task which we're developing together. So yeah, I'm always willing to help, but it shouldn't be the pillar or base of a relationship, I think.
It's kind of fun to hear each investor's different view on this. Like Gopi was on the show a few weeks ago, or about a month ago now, and he's an investor in InsurTech in Silicon Valley, so like completely different arena. And his view on the investor-startup relationship is very different, but it's also a very different industry.
I'm actually quite interested in InsurTech because Liberalia now is essentially in insurance exclusively. We only work for mobile phone insurance, and we are a third-party administrator of mobile phone and damaged electronic claims. So I should be more interested in InsurTech than I have been up till now.
I can connect you guys after this. Just
Okay.
remind me on LinkedIn. Hey.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, what were a few obstacles that you were surprised to face in your earliest months the first time you were an investor? Do you remember? Or?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think sort of fighting against myself. No, like where was my role? What was I doing?
Yeah.
And that's something that now, after a few years, I have far clearer, and I have a much clearer idea of who I am and what I am, as I've explained. No, I'm there to put money into the company, and I should only concentrate on is that money really going to grow? Is the company going to be successful? Yeah. Not trying to see how my relationship is going to work or not work with the startup. You know, that's yes. I could have an advisor seat. I could be on the board somewhere, but in the end, I should trust my experience in business in general to be able to add value on that front. But as soon as if I'm just a shareholder, I should just be that. And it's interesting. It kind of helps you to separate things.
Okay, that's interesting. So let's see, what's the next question? Sorry, I have to scroll down for a second.
Also, kind of like for a non-professional investor at the beginning, the whole terminology and the way things are done in the startup world is sort of different from real business and sort of real mature big companies, you know, or even me. I didn't really realize I was starting a startup when I was 18. I just opened a company. I went to the registrar's office and showed my ID, signed the papers, and started employing people. Yeah. I didn't try to sort of bootstrap my way along or anything like that. I just sort of got there and did it. And to invest in the startup ecosystem, you sort of have to familiarize yourself with it and sort of understand a lot of things. It's a process as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Do you have any, now that you're in the startup ecosystem, do you have any advice for somebody that's looking to move from the business world to the startup ecosystem?
You mean investors or founders?
Founders.
Founders.
Sorry, you have a rare story where you have both.
There shouldn't be a difference between business and startups. It's the same thing. So there's things which are done very well in startups, and there's things that are done very well in business. And I think there's a lot to be learned from both. Certainly, being lean and not spending huge amounts of money on consulting or whatever is kind of key for a startup. To sort of do it yourself and learn how to do it yourself should be applied in bigger companies as well.
Yeah.
It's difficult to manage a PR firm if you haven't been there and done it yourself. I have done my PR myself for ski racing as an athlete and as a discipline, as ski racing, the whole discipline, which I manage now, and now I've professionalized it with a PR agency. But it's so much easier to manage once you've sort of been there and done it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot to be said for being lean and sort of bootstrapping your way through as much as you can. But also, you know, sitting down and renting some office space, not rather than like some co-working, is sort of a step. It's like it's for some startups it's necessary to do, and they should do it earlier rather than later.
Okay. Why?
I think it's like leaving your parents' house. It's like soft and cuddly, but maybe it's not what you're going to do for the future. It might not be that much more expensive, but it sort of gives you a certain formality. This is a vast generalization, and it depends what you're into. But But I have seen a lot of startups which have just for 4 years been in a small co-working space, and you're like, this is just, it just doesn't look very serious. It doesn't look very professional.
Yeah.
And looking professional is also important.
Yeah,
whether it's for an investor, a customer, or a supplier. Sometimes
you need
being
that.
in a nice building and having an office with your name on your door is important.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. The startup that I'm working at now has the office that I'm in is in the same. We share the office with HBO, Citibank. It's like you walk in and you're like, wow. And then their other space is in a WeWork, but now they're also moving into a serious building there, and it's really when you make that jump, it's a little bit scary, but then it forces you to be serious about your next moves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having, putting employees on a payroll, paying people, and it just brings things into dimension quickly. And you can't survive with not paying people. Just, sweat equity or whatever. It's okay for a few months, but really, if you want to get serious, raise cash, put the idea up, and get going.
Yeah.
I regularly accept, whether I end up investing or not, but I accept sort of as not a red line to say no to an investment. Founders who are paying themselves respectable salaries from day one. It's natural. It's normal. They have to live off something, and if they're experienced engineer who's had a high salary and they want to start a company, yes, they should be paid maybe less than market value slightly, but not really low figures, and they should. It's their job to convince the investors that they're worth that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So
it's basically go big. You have to think big and think into the future and not be scared of it. If you think big and you're convinced of it, then you'll sell, you'll attract investment, and it'll all fit together.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to the speed skiing where, like, yes, you're afraid and you're about to go down, but it helps you to focus. Like for my quarterly goals, if they don't cause me to have a little bit of angst, I'm not going to kick into, my brain won't switch from just tinkering around to performance mode unless the goals are slightly terrifying. I need that.
Yeah, after my crash, I had to I spent a season underperforming.
Yeah.
And underperforming, it was simple. You'd look at the photos beforehand and afterward my crash, and I was sort of this much higher in position afterwards. So I was kind of like, my body was saying, don't go so fast.
Yeah.
My mind was saying race, but my body was, saying, okay, but not so quickly, which is actually more dangerous and also slower. So I thought that I was strong enough to overcome that and teach myself to push again. And in the end, I decided to work with a sports psychologist and try to rationalize. Well, I think I'd rationalized my ideas and what I wanted, but I wasn't able to execute them, put into practice properly.
Yeah.
So I worked hard with him, and basically we tested every single sort of scenario of me as an athlete and as a person, how I react to stress and what happens if I don't have stress, and the reason I'm saying is that the conclusion was that I worked much better under stress, and that I need stress to perform.
Yeah.
The other really cool conclusion is that I can't stop being scared, but what I can do is know that I am going to be scared at the start, and that really helps. So in case that helps anyone, my experience, it's really helped me not only in skiing, but I don't know. Imagine public speaking in front of a new crowd about something you've never talked about beforehand.
Yeah.
yeah, you might be a little bit scared of that. Well, it's okay. Just accept it and do it. Accept that you can be scared is a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
I think.
I was in a ballet company in my last 2 years of high school, and before the performance, I was like terrified, shaking. But then as soon as we went on stage, it was like, okay, you have time to be insecure, freaking out up until you go on stage. As soon as you go on stage, like you have to shut off the emotional side of your brain and just like lean in. And I found the same thing happens when I've had to do speaking engagements, like for IE and other startups. Like in 2016 or 2017, IE had me do 3 speaking engagements in 3 cities in 3 days. And I'm an introvert, and I was like, oh, this is going to go well. So, yeah. But it was the same thing. Like I was terrified up until I walked like up in front of these groups of people in cities I had never been to before. It's like, okay, though, like I had to think of it as make them feel comfortable, like be more concerned about them feeling comfortable and confident, and that kind of helped me to shut off the like, oh my gosh, everything could epically fail part of my internal dialogue. But yeah.
But even that, I mean, it's you can't really shut down that part. So it's sometimes it's better to just accept. Okay, my mind is going to tell me that this is not a good idea, but I'm still going to do it. So I'm sometimes it's scared of being scared is the problem.
Yeah.
Or whatever the emotion, where it's scared or stressed or whatever. It's like no, just it's going to happen. It's going to be there. I'm gonna go down the mountain at 200 kilometers per hour, so it's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
I'm going to go in front of those people and talk to them. So, and I might as well accept that I'm going to be a bit nervous beforehand.
Yeah, I'm scared of being scared. Yeah, I think that's like the exact pinpoint. But yeah, so let's see. We totally went on a tangent. Let me get back to the questions.
Yes. I see we're both good at it.
Pardon?
We're both good at that.
Yes. Well, I think it's more fun when you just follow the questions. It's like the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. You just have to follow. Let's see. Oh, so before launching all of these startups and getting into speed skiing, did you have a clear vision of what you wanted, or did you kind of just look at opportunities as they popped up and you jumped at the next one that looked most appealing? Like, did you have a vision of like, this is what's going to happen, this is how I'm going to get there, or like, how did that all fall into place?
No, I didn't really have a roadmap. I mean, yes, for certain projects, yes.
Yeah.
In speed skiing, it's easy. I wanted to win.
Yeah.
So it's a simple objective, no. And for Liberalia, yes, I wanted my company to be successful and grow. But we got into insurance by accident.
Yeah.
I think life is full of opportunities, and you have to know how to deal with them and identify the ones which are not going to waste your time and really going to be useful to you. And that's pretty bit like startups. No? There's so many opportunities and so many cool ideas out there, so many inspiring people.
Yeah.
And you really have to know how to cherry pick. And it's about identifying the right opportunities, whether it's skiing, business, or investing. It's all the same. Do you have a good criteria? So if I'm successful investing, other people will follow me maybe one day, and that's kind of the direction that I'm going bit by bit, see if I really can have a good strategy for identifying talent, then that could be useful to other people and be extremely profitable. So it's
absolutely,
it's all about what's happened and what's going to happen, I think, in many cases. As what has happened in your life? Have you made the right decisions? Have you been of strategic value in different areas in the past?
Yeah. No, that's an interesting one. There's like 2 schools of thought amongst like high performers with their advice that they give. And one of them is, oh, you need a vision board and you just keep updating the vision board. And then there's the other school of thought that's more like the Steve Jobs where he's like, you just have to trust that everything's going to fall into place. And when you look back, you'll realize that like all of the dots connected, but you didn't realize like how they were going to connect until you're standing at the end looking back. But
yeah. For me, I don't think it really matters, but what I can't tell you the formula for success. This is one of these typical phrases that I'm going to say, but I can tell you the formula for failure.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's the person. So it doesn't matter if you're skiing or in your business, which you started when you're 18, or in a startup, talking about the founders or something like that. It's the person and how they interact with others is key. So I always concentrate most of my due diligence on the actual founder and the leader.
Okay.
And I'm really looking and drilling and sort of seeing if the person is a good person in all situations. Is he a people person? Does he make other people feel good? And that's so important.
Yeah.
Can he build a team around him? If you're not a good person, you can't build a team around you. They're going to hate you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, that's true.
and yeah, being patient, listening to people, listening to advice in the right way, knowing how to deal with it, and knowing how to make people who give you advice feel good about giving advice. There's so many components of being an integral leader and be able to push a project forward, which are critical.
Yeah.
And I think most projects fail are because of the leader, of the actual, the people skills of the leader. Yeah. Whether it's not engaging with suppliers or customers or the actual team, but the overall well-rounded person who is fun to be with, people will follow him. He will inspire others to work harder, to buy their products, and that's critical. And also, if it doesn't matter if you have a roadmap or not, if you're a hard worker and a good person, you'll probably get it done. It sort of clicks into place. Obviously, you have to have a good idea. You have to build a good team and all that. You have to be intelligent and persevere. And there's a whole bunch of things that we're missing in this generalization of a picture of a super founder. But I think the most important quality, which a lot of people miss, is this guy a good person? Is he really integral?
That's huge. I had one mentor a few years ago. He would invest in different cryptocurrencies based on who the founder was. Yeah. It's like, who is that guy or that girl as a person? And that's how he made his decisions. And I was like, that's tying back to the same thing. Okay, so...
Yeah, I mean, you can't be also too good, I mean, you can't let people take advantage of you. So you really do want to... That's what I sort of analyzed, just balanced. Also, what happens when he has to fire someone? Will he? Or is he just too good a person to fire, but to fire anyone?
Yeah.
Will he change suppliers if the supplier is not working well? So it's interesting.
Yeah, no.
Decision making is key.
Yeah. Definitely.
I try to simplify things as much as possible for myself. So the sooner I say no to a startup, the quicker for everybody and the less problems for anyone.
Yeah.
And my experience is that where I find most obstacles is once I've already, read a deck and thought, this could be relatively interesting and up my street. I try to get onto the founder as quickly as possible and see what he's like.
Okay. Do you have any? I mean, we already sort of touched upon this, but do you have any other high performance habits that have sort of guided you throughout your journey? Like, some people force themselves to read a book a week. Other people have like, oh, I need to have a daily check-in with mentors, or like, do you have any sort of rules like that you make for yourself that help you?
I think I'd have to if I wasn't an athlete.
Okay.
So when I retire in 4 years' time, I think I have to find some sort of strategy around that.
Yeah.
But I think my sport keeps me ordered to a sort of my mind in ordered and sort of disciplined and sufficiently. So
Okay.
I don't need to find any other sort of concrete things which help me, other than maybe sort of always making an effort to be good with everybody and patient and because I am very impatient, but if somebody's irritating you with a stupid idea in your company, you can't tell them that. You have to be. You can say no at the end, but you have to listen to them patiently. And I think that's probably the biggest sort of knowledgeable sort of conscious effort that I make to try to not be impatient with other people.
Yeah. Okay. What is your training schedule like?
Well, year round, it's about an hour and a half of physical preparation a day, 6 days a week.
Okay.
I have 3 weeks off after the ski racing season.
Yeah.
And that basically involves gym, a lot of weights, a lot of lifting, some aerobics sort of exercises, rowing and things, and then on snow from beginning of October, mid-October in this case, we should be skiing within about 10 days time in the Alps, in Austria.
Okay.
And then it's sort of 2-3 days, sort of flying over to Austria, skiing 2-3 days, flying back, and I repeat every sort of 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
And or right up to the racing season, which is almost three months.
Okay. And then when you're gone, how does you have like a daily check-in that you do with your teams? Because you have the PR agency, you have Liberalia, you have all these other things going on.
They all sort of have grown to know me, and they're on top of me. So when they they know that they have to come and get me.
Okay.
So it puts pressure off me as well, because I know that I try to avoid things depending on me remembering things.
Yeah.
I try to make sure that other people are responsible with what they need from me, and if I haven't replied to an email, they know that they have 24 hours for me to reply, and if not, they have to insist and call me or whatever.
Okay.
And even though it's not that difficult during the season, I do come back to Madrid practically every week. I'm with my wife and daughter. I do still live in Madrid, even though if I'm away for a week.
Yeah. Okay. How old is your daughter?
A year and a half today. A year and a half.
Congratulations.
We're having a 1.5 birthday party. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I mean, why not?
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either, but I thought it was a good idea, so we're doing it.
Yeah. That's so fun. Is she expressing an interest in skiing yet?
Yeah, I mean, we took her skiing before she was 1. Coinciding with the World Cup in Andorra, and she started walking at 10 months. So I thought, this is my opportunity, and yeah, she got on a pair of skis 2 days before her first birthday party.
Oh my gosh!
Although I don't want her to be a professional skier,
No.
I want her to enjoy skiing and enjoy life and make choices for herself.
Yeah. My parents, when I was 6 months old, they went skiing with me in a backpack.
Oh, yeah.
My mom was a ski instructor out in Vail, Colorado for a little while. So when she married my dad, she's like, I'm not going to stop skiing. Like, we're just going to bring the baby. And then they made a deal that by the following year, I would be able to walk. And like they would push me to learn to walk quickly so that when I was a year and a half, I would be on skis. So that's how I got started in ballet, because they wanted to strengthen my legs before the ski season. But I think they realized it was a bad idea because my younger siblings didn't start skiing until they were 3 and 4. But
yeah, I mean, I say my daughter skied at the age of 0, but we
dragged
pushed her around a flat part, And, no, really, I don't think till 3 or 4 it makes any sense. It's just playing, familiarizing yourself with the environment, learning to love snow, which you can do on or off skis. That doesn't really matter. But yeah, physically, normally 3 is around the right age to start having fun.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 questions left.
Okay.
And then you can run to your birthday preparations. So, as a seasoned gladiator of the startup arena, do you have a strategy you use or a process that you used when an unexpected emergency arises?
I really haven't had very many emergencies in startups which I've invested.
Okay.
Any type of emergency before investing would be basically don't invest. If there's something which you could call an emergency. But in general, I think what I would do and what I do in my company is to stop and think and really try to rationalize what the emergency is and what the outcome now that it's happened is. I think you can apply that to other areas in life and business as well. As in, okay, we're angry, okay, we have a problem, we've lost money or whatever. What is the solution? What is the ideal solution? And is it achievable? Yeah. Because a lot of times we want to achieve something which if we stop and think is not possible. And yeah, so just stop and think and what's the end solution from that emergency that you want, and then put the mechanisms into place to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And that's something I do actively sort of reflect with me and sort of my life and the team. So okay, this is the situation. Let's find the solution, the ideal solution. Is it realistic? Is the solution achievable? Let's do it. Okay. It's simple.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's great. You boil everything down to the most simple one-liner and then can expand from there.
But yeah, because a lot of the time, if you have an emergency, you sort of carry on analyzing what's happened, what's happening, what we could do. No. Think of the end, the final point. And build back from there.
Yeah.
Maybe it cannot be solved. A lot of time we try to find solutions for things which just cannot be solved. Yeah. Or try to reconduct people which don't have a solution, and you need to change the area in which they work or fire them or something like that. On Monday, I had to fire an employee which had been with us for 3.5 years, and he was a valuable member, but we decided that the relationship with his boss had deteriorated and it just wasn't improvable. I mean, it would happen again, and the rational solution for that was for him to leave the company, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's interesting with younger talent, they tend to think that they can get away with less than ideal behavior because of their skill set, and they don't realize that it's 30% your skill set, 20% can we teach, like how quickly can you learn something, and 50% how do you work with others, like
definitely yes.
So last question. Okay, what are some tools and tactics that you use to manage everything you have going on? I know you said you have people ping you when they need you, but do you use something like Asana? Do you have a personal CRM? Like, how do you keep track of everything you have going on?
My life is so busy that I survive by the day. I try to do as many things as possible in a day and stop at a certain time. Okay. And treat each day on its own and not get entangled with things which I haven't been able to do the day before. It's okay. That's why I ask my team sort of the 24-hour rule. I have to reply. They have to reply in 24 hours. I have to reply within 24 hours. Yeah. Solve, find solutions, be quick, and if not, restart, start again. Each each day is kind of new. It's like the Groundhog Day. So that's kind of my life. That's
yeah.
It's a bit, it's horrible because I basically know that I will never reply to all the emails in my inbox. That's my situation. I don't recommend that to anyone. I don't think anybody should be in that situation. But if you are,
yeah,
the solution which I've found to having so many eggs in a basket is just, you know, do what you can, solve as much as possible, and just make sure that the people around you, which are in charge of everything and know what they have to do, pursue you for the decisions that you need to make.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect, and I sort of disagree with your sort of superhuman conclusion about me. I'm just a regular person with my insecurities and my fears and my problems in my everyday life, and I've had some success in certain things which I've done, and I've put the hours in. I've put the hard work in. Maybe I've made some good decisions along the way, but it's all about working hard and being good to other people and asking for help when you need it.
I think it's also a little bit of you're playing the long game. Like when you're looking at the situation, like a lot of people are short-sighted and they have like a Groundhog Day where they're constantly spending that day investing time and energy into things that may not pay off in the long run. Whereas it sounds like when you're answering questions, it's I'm going to invest this limited amount of time I have in this one thing. How's that going to impact us like 1, 5, 10 years from now? Whereas some people are kind of just like, oh, I answered an email and they're excited. It's like, no, it's not just answer 15 emails. It's if you can only answer 15, look for the 15 that are going to help you to move the dial the most.
Yes.
Like 80-20, using the 80-20 principle to really select like where you're going to put the limited amount of time you have.
I'll do that, okay.
Well, it sounds like that's what you're already doing.
No, yeah, it sounds like it, but I don't do it enough. Definitely, I think I should pay more attention to replying, to selecting which emails I do actually reply to.
Yeah.
So thank you for the advice.
No, that wasn't. It sounds like if you don't do that, your people come back to you to make sure you do that. But
it's not good for them either. You know, like your boss didn't reply to your email, you have to ring him up and say, you know, we need a decision on this. I mean, I do explain beforehand, and they do know that my days are sometimes don't go as planned, and I'm not able to dedicate enough time to certain things. So they're all very conscious about it, and it works. I have to say, it's okay.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It was very interesting, and I enjoyed reflecting about certain things, and sometimes, you know, you don't stop and think about your conduct or your attitudes or who you are or what you do, and these moments are very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to take moments to share that about yourself as you're discovering it yourself, I guess. But all right, so lads and ladies, if you would like to keep in touch with Jan, well, you can't really, but if you would like to follow him,
of course you can. You can write to me if you need something. You'll be welcome.
To be email number 300 in his inbox.
No. I'll do my best to reply and make it interesting.
All right. So, lads and ladies, if you want to keep tabs on Jan, you can hop over to YouTube. I will put the link in the show notes. And you could also check out his LinkedIn. I will have a link to that in the show notes as well. Jan, thank you so much for joining us today. We enjoyed having you on the show. And happy 1.5 birthday to your daughter.
Thank you very much. Maybe this is going to be a thing after everybody hears this. We're going to start the virality of 1.5 birthday parties.
You will. You are a trendsetter.
Thank you for the inspiring questions, and enjoy your day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.